For supper tonight, Whole30 Day 13, we're having jambalaya. And I have these cute little shrimp that we picked up at the beach. And, oh wow, look how easily that shell came off. They were so inexpensive at the beach that I couldn't resist buying some to eat back at home because these taste better and were so much cheaper. These were $6 a pound for these cute little shrimp just caught right off the coast there. So I'm super excited to eat these. And these little ones are going to be perfect for our jambalaya tonight. The only problem is that I have to peel them all. But these, the skins are coming off really easily, and usually I would devein them. So there's a little vein back here. Just take a sharp knife. I typically use a serrated knife when I'm doing shrimp and run down and pull that out. And sometimes there's a vein on the top and the bottom. And sometimes there's just one on the top, sometimes there's just one on the bottom. These just have the one, and they're so small, I'm really going to leave them. But I wanted to show you a couple different ways to do this. This is actually a shrimp deveiner, peeler and deveiner. You're supposed to run through the shell, and it cuts the shell, and also we'll pull that. We call it a vein, but it's really not a vein. It's the digestive tract. We pull that out. But these are so little, I'm a little bit afraid that I'm just going to tear them to pieces if I use this big one. So let's see what I'm going to decide to do. Of course, the other option is that you buy your shrimp already peeled and deveined, and it is not hard to find them that way, but of course it costs more. And you always want to use wild caught seafood if you can. Farm raised. I haven't researched it for a while, so they may be changing some of their methods, or at least there might be some options now. It used to be that all the farm raised was fed corn and soy and like the same stuff that they feed cattle in those big feedlots and stuff. And that's not the way shrimp normally eat, or fish, obviously. And so, that's not good for the animals, which makes the final product that we're eating not as good for us, and on and on and on. So wild caught means it came out of its native environment and has not been treated in any way. They were simply caught. These guys, their little heads were cut off and put on ice until we bought them. So I'm just going to go through. I've got about a pound here, and I'm going to peel all of these. If they have a big, obvious vein, I'll call it a vein, I'll cut that out or pull it out. But I'm not going to go to great lengths to get those all out of there. And then I'll be back with the rest of our paleo jambalaya recipe. Hi there, everybody. So I'm back working on our jambalaya. I got all of my shrimp cleaned, and I put them back in the fridge because I want them to stay cold until I'm ready to cook them. And they're going to go in kind of towards the end. And what I have here is my big cast iron skillet, my 12-inch skillet, and I have a big heaping tablespoon of ghee in there. And I'm going to cut up my sausage. So we're doing a shrimp and sausage jambalaya. And I taste some of these. This is a Welsher Farms brand. It's the smoked fresh turkey kielbasa. I know, I say I know, I don't know. I'm not from Louisiana, so I don't really know what makes a proper jambalaya. I'm just trying to simulate those flavors to get something really good and tasty for our Whole30 tonight. And there are a lot of these different smoked sausages at my store, actually. And I've bought some. I mean, if you look at the ingredients, they all are basically the same. I cannot open that. Some are really spicy. Some have kind of a flavor I don't like. Andouille, I think, is the typical jambalaya sausage. So this is not andouille, it's just a kielbasa, which I know that I like and my family likes it. And so that's what I bought. I did have a piece for breakfast the other day. And this week's menus came from things that I had in my freezer, my proteins that I had in my freezer, because I don't know, my grocery budget the budget doesn't ebb and flow, but some weeks I spend more than others, and the last couple weeks have been kind of high dollar weeks, and I thought it was time to kind of rein that in a little bit and have a less expensive week. And so the perfect way to do that is actually use all that stuff that I have been putting in the freezer and saying, oh, this will be great for someday in the future, and then I forget about it. So I went through my freezer and inventoried my proteins, and that's what we have eaten this week. And anyway, I had bought this smoked sausage so I could have something a little different for my breakfast, and I just wasn't loving it for breakfast, which I eat a lot of savory stuff for breakfast. I don't know why. When I bought it, I guess I hadn't really been in the mood. So it was sitting in there for about a week, and I thought it needed to be eaten up. And I knew I had my shrimp in the freezer that I brought home from the beach, and I thought, that sounds like jambalaya to me, so here we are. So I'm going to start by sauteing my sausage because, I want to render some of that fat out. So I'm going to get my sausage, get a little brown on it, and then I'll have that fat along with the ghee in my skillet to cook all my vegetables. So I think traditional jambalaya would also have chicken, and I'm just not using chicken because I didn't have any laying around. So there goes my sausage, and while that's cooking, I'm going to cut my onion. This is a pretty big one. I think I'm only going to use half. I'll use a big half. I was going to use a whole onion, but that one was just kind of large. And the next thing I'm going to do once my sausage has browned a bit, I'm going to pull that actually out of my skillet and put my veggies in. And let's see, I think my zucchini is not traditional, a traditional jambalaya ingredient, but I wanted to put another vegetable in there. I had a couple choices that I thought about when I was planning this dish, and I think typically jambalaya would be served over rice, and so I thought about doing a cauliflower rice, but quite frankly, I don't like it. I like mashed cauliflower to sort of fill the gap for mashed potatoes. I have a recipe, actually we just posted a video for that. I really like it a lot, and I can tolerate cauliflower in some stir fries and with some roasted veggies and that sort of thing, but I don't think in any way it seems like rice. It doesn't taste like rice to me. It doesn't look like rice. I think some food bloggers are really good photographers, and they can make a picture that makes it look like the cauliflower is rice, but it's not. And to be perfectly honest, I know that I tolerate rice pretty well. My functional medicine doctor had me a couple of years ago try some white rice, and just to see how well I tolerate it, because it is a good whole grain, and I tolerated it just fine. So I would typically eat rice on occasion. It's getting nice and brown. I'll show you a piece in a minute. But with Whole30, there are no grains, and I'm not allowed to eat it. So I'm going to stay true to the Whole30, and I'm not going to eat the rice. So instead of making cauliflower rice for my family, I'm just making regular rice for them, and I'm just not going to eat any. And I'm finally getting to my point. So I wanted to put an additional vegetable in just to kind of bulk up the meal for my sake, and so I have this zucchini I'm going to add in. There we go. So I have bell pepper, which my daughter just ran out and picked this from the garden. Peppers are still hanging on and doing really well out there. So I'm excited to have that. Peppers are something that I can't eat a lot of, but I can eat a few and on occasion, so I'll enjoy a few bites of pepper in my jambalaya, and the flavor is pretty critical to this dish. I have this tiny one in my drawer, so I won't use that one. It's kind of popping all over, making a mess. So I have a plate, put that on when it's done. And I have my vegetables ready. And additionally, I'm going to save these guys with the leaves because those will be great for broth. I'm going to put in some celery. I've got 2 stalks of celery. And I've run out of space on my cutting board, so I'll be real careful here. So I just ran my knife down the middle of that so they weren't giant pieces. And this will yield for me close to a cup of diced celery. My sausage is about ready. Not quite, but about. Just let this spill onto my counter, that's okay. Give that another minute or so. It's definitely, this little burner is not very big, so I gotta get everything towards the center. So our method here is that I'm going to saute my veggies, and then I will add some tomato paste, and I'll leave that in to get nice and brown. Stir that around a little bit. And I will season with this Cajun seasoning. And then I'm going to add some broth to give it a little more volume and some flavor. And then I'll add in my shrimp and let my shrimp just sort of simmer in the broth for just a few minutes, and then they will be done. And you have a couple options with your seasoning. I bought this Cajun seasoning for another recipe I made recently, and it was good, and it has a little bit of heat to it, which is fine. It wasn't too spicy for us. That's hot. You see it smoking? All right, so my sausage is out. I'll put my veggies in. So you can get this sort of Cajun flavor by adding in garlic and some different herbs like oregano and parsley and thyme, some cayenne pepper. Oh gosh, I had written some down. I'll look in a second. But I have this, and it has the flavors that I want. And they do say on here spices, and it contains no MSG. So I know it doesn't contain MSG, but it is gluten-free. They've confirmed that it's gluten-free. I don't know. There might be a little cornstarch or something in here, but I'm just not going to worry about it, frankly. It's making my life easier. I've eaten it before. It's not caused any sort of reaction. Although, honestly, excuse me, my diet is so clean with this Whole30 right now that if I feel bad tonight, I might suspect this seasoning. But I'm just going to go with it for now because it's making my life easier. So I'm just going to give this about 10 minutes to start to brown with some nice caramelization on there. And the onion, the bell pepper, and the celery will take longer to cook than my zucchini. So that's why I went ahead and got them going while I chop my zucchini. So this broth I'm going to use is a little less traditional in that typically I would use a chicken broth to add to my dish, but I made that carnitas the other night with a Boston butt, which is pretty fatty, and I added broth to my Instant Pot, and I had all this good broth left at the end, and I didn't want to throw it out. So this is sort of a pork chicken hybrid broth. But you can see two things. There's this thick layer of fat on top, so I'm just going to scrape that off and throw it in the trash. Underneath, I have this really good gelatinous broth, and I want that. It's full of amino acids, which are really healing, and it's going to taste really good, so that's just what I want to add to my dish. So I turned this way down because it had gotten really hot, and I got to get it going again. I'm just going to pull out an onion and taste it and see how this seasoning is. That's really good. It's a little salty, but I didn't add any salt to that. My shrimp will not be salty, so it's perfectly fine. Let me crank that up pretty high. I'm going to add my zucchinis in now. And just make sure I have everything else ready to go. Zucchini all over the place. Ooh, and sausage too. And stir those in. Once they're brown to my liking, I'm going to add tomato paste, and then we'll add our broth in. Then we'll put the sausage back in. I'll get my shrimp out. I'll add that in. And then we'll be almost ready. Okay, so we're real smoky here, and I want to show you, this is just what I want. I got a nice good char on my veggies. Can you see that? You see the color on there? I'm going to make a little well in the middle, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. So I just squeeze it out in 2 little piles. You can see 2 tablespoons. I got my assistant over here fanning the door because this is not where my fan is and the smoke detector is about to go off. Just kind of brown that for a second, and then stir it around. And now I'm going to stop this smoking nonsense with my broth. Okay, so I added my broth. That was, my recipe as I wrote it down was for 2 cups of broth, and that was just about exactly 2 cups. I think it was probably a teeny bit less. And this was really smoky, which is good. That's the nice thing about cast iron. It can get really hot, which is what I like. I forgot we needed to add some tomatoes. And I happen to have these little guys here from my garden, so I just peeled them, and I'm going to chop them up. But by all means, you put in 1 small can of diced or even crushed tomatoes. I know some people don't like that texture of like the canned diced tomatoes. So by all means, use whatever you like. It's just food. It's your food. So make it according to your family's tastes and preferences. So 1 small can of tomatoes, or a large fresh tomato, a couple medium tomatoes. These are really sweet. I might end up needing to add like a little squeeze of lemon juice or vinegar maybe to my jambalaya here, because I do want a little hit of acid, which typically would come from tomatoes, but these homegrown ones are just so sweet that I don't know that they're going to give me that that little acid flavor that I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm going to let this stew away for a few minutes and reduce a little bit. I'm going to taste it. Tell you what, I used about a half a teaspoon of that Cajun seasoning, and that is just the right amount of spice for me. You might like things spicier, but we do not like a lot of spice, and that is just right. And I haven't added any other salt or pepper, and the flavors are really good. So this Louisiana fish fry brand, I like it. I like it a lot. So we're going to let this reduce, and might add a little bit of my glucomannan to this for it to thicken up a bit. but I'm going to give it a few minutes to reduce on its own and see how it does. Alright, so I want my jambalaya to be a little bit thicker. I mean, it's nice and brothy. Certainly eat this like a soup, and like I said, my family's going to eat it over rice. But I just want, I want it to thicken a little bit, so I have put a half a teaspoon of my glucomannan in here, and I'm going to pour in a little cold water, just about 2 tablespoons, and get this all dissolved, and then I'm going to quickly pour it in while I'm stirring, so it won't clump up on me, and we'll just do its thickening job. And I've told you before, this glucomannan is a fiber supplement. A lot of people use it in that way. You can actually buy it in capsule form, or you can buy it in powder form, which is what I did because I want to use it in this type of application. It comes from I'm probably going to say this wrong, the konjac root. And even Mark Hyman, who is very well respected in the functional medicine community, is a big fan of this product. So I feel totally safe using it. I'm not adding a lot of starch. So that's thickening up nicely, just how I want it. And now I'm going to add my shrimp in, like I told you at the last minute. Okay, so there's still a little bit of ice in here. I actually, even though I had my shrimp in the fridge, I had them on ice so that they would stay nice and cold. But I don't want to add all that water to my dish, so I'm going to fish the ice out. And it took me, I showed you how to peel these. I ended up not needing to use the knife or my shrimp deveiner at all. They were so easy to peel. I just used my fingers and it took about 15 minutes. So that wasn't too bad. It was worth it to pay $5.99 for these incredible fresh shrimp, to have to do a little bit of work and peel them myself. So I'm just going to stir those in. They're already turning pink. I'll keep my tasting spoon handy. I'll move this out of the way. I'm going to garnish with some green onions, which I like the flavor, so that works for me. My kids won't enjoy the flavor, so I won't put any on theirs. But it'll look pretty, and I'll like that little hit of fresh, herby, oniony flavor at the end. I'm going to give this one more taste for seasoning, because I've added a lot of stuff without adding anything except for a little bit of that Louisiana seasoning, Cajun seasoning. It's really good. Of course, the kielbasa was well seasoned. Wasn't spicy, but it was well seasoned. This is delicious. I can't wait to dig in. I'm going to turn my heat all the way down. Okay, so here's my rice for the family. I'm going to just spoon up some of this into the bowl, which the kids will definitely need, because first of all, they need some of these carbs, but also it's a little spicy for them. So I'll spoon in some rice. Let me get my ladle. Make sure they get lots of shrimp and sausage and broth. I told you before, they love brothy soups. I think they'll really enjoy this. So here's my finished product, my shrimp and sausage jambalaya, paleo style, and it is super flavorful, and I'm really excited to dig into this for dinner. Last night, day 12, we had that marinated sirloin steak and asparagus and sweet potatoes, and my sweet potatoes totally burned on the grill, and the steak was a little overcooked for my taste, so that was not my favorite meal, just to be perfectly honest. It was good. It was an inexpensive piece of grass-fed beef, but it just wasn't my favorite, and I am really looking forward to this one tonight. So look for this recipe on my website, ourpaleofamily.com, and have yourself a little Cajun dinner. Good luck with the rest of your Whole 30.